this video is dedicated to Stan Lee, one of the most iconic and revolutionary individuals of our time. When you talk about pop culture and all the influences, it really has to start with Stan Lee because it started with comic books and it permeated into Hollywood. So yes, everyone should be mourning his passing in some, because he has influenced or affected almost everyone's life in some fashion. You might be thinking I'm being a little too dramatic about it, but
for the past 70 years, man,
yes.
Artist, writer, and I can't think of another person that has really managed to embed themselves into the collective consciousness of like every geek and every child and adult out there can relate to Stan Lee at some level.
Right, even if they don't know who Stan Lee is, they've seen his contributions to pop culture, absolutely.
Absolutely, starting in the 50s and the 60s with the Fantastic Four, of course, was kind of like his breakthrough along with collaborator Jack Kirby.
Right. Yeah, he started off with Captain America, writing one of their stories, and then just kind of built from there. I think most people would recognize him for Spider-Man, Amazing Fantasy 15, obviously.
And so many others, Thor, Hulk, and then that turned into the Avengers, and then you have Black Panther, of course. And to think that since the 50s, he has been such a prominent figure, and that today his movies are finally coming to life on the big screen the way that they are meant to is just amazing.
Right, and when you think about Stan Lee, a lot of people will say, well, yeah, he wrote a lot of comic books and whatnot, but it's a little bit more than that, right? He did kind of change the game, so to speak, with going against social norms at the time, trying to bring to light a lot of real-world problems.
Right. He created a mythology, a new mythology. He really revolutionized the way superheroes were seen, because up until that point, superheroes were kind of superficial, but he made superheroes more human, more complex, more nuanced, more flawed,
more round,
and more interesting, therefore, But yeah, you hit it on the nail. Like, a lot of world issues, were brought up to the forefront in his
when you talk, like, I remember, just going back to my childhood, there was a story arc with Captain America with the super soldier serum. This is very geeky, by the way. And then so Captain America, this was a time when we were like, big war on drugs, and so he was thinking, well, this is kind of a drug, so he had to kind of battle that issue and get off of it. And so yeah, they tackled a lot of problems all through these comic books, guys.
Yeah, and talking about childhood memories, man, I mean, when I was a kid, I was a sucker for collecting X-Men trading cards. I have the entire 1992 Marvel Masterpiece collection. I love the artwork in that, set of cards, and even before I knew the name Stan Lee, I knew the X-Men by heart. I mean, that was my first introduction into the world of Stan Lee, even before Spider-Man, even before the Avengers, because I would hear my parents talk about the Avengers and I would hear them talk about Spider-Man, but in my time it was more the X-Men,
Right, yeah, because you were more of like, your childhood was more like in the 90s, and they had the X-Men cartoons.
80s, 90s, right, exactly. Oh yeah, the X-Men cartoons, which
it's somewhere here. Oh, there it is, right there.
Yep. Yeah, that X-Men TV series, the cartoon series, man, I was
back when we actually watched cartoons on Saturday mornings.
Yeah, I was hooked, man. I was hooked. I couldn't stop watching that, and it's amazing these characters that he created and how different they were, and how he would like incorporate, aspects of like old mythology, and make his own new thing, when
I was so I'll talk a little bit about my memories and my gratitude towards Stan Lee. When I was younger, I was like a lot of kids who's into superheroes, right? And so I was always constantly on quests with my little bike, going to comic book shop looking for cards, looking for comic books. I spent a lot of time reading,
hoping that when you opened that little packet of cards, you wouldn't get any repeat cards. You're like,
I already have 5 of these.
Exactly, man. And then trading with your buddies, with your friends, like, hey, I need that card. I want that card.
Or foolishly selling the first set for only $20.
Oh yeah,
like I did in 7th grade, because $20 to me at the time was a lot of money.
Yeah.
Yeah. So going back to reading and collecting comic books, that helped foster my imagination, my creativity. I remember I used to draw a lot, and I used to draw from the comic books. It gave me something to do, stay out of trouble. It boosted my vocabulary, at an age when I was very impressionable.
Yeah. Well, it made you love reading, right?
Yes.
It instilled in you like a passion in reading, and it just opened up this imaginative world that was, just you were addicted to it, man, because it was so interesting.
Right. It really put my writing on another level, actually, believe it or not. You know, and then I went on, you know, when I got to high school, I was really into journalism because of all the reading and writing I'd done. So it was kind of a natural thing for me. Then I went on to a career in journalism, and then
I would venture to say that
one day I will write a novel.
Yes, well, you know, I would dare say that, you know, Stan Lee's work definitely influenced my love of film. You know, I'm also a journalism major, so I mean, I guess along the way, that's where my love of storytelling came from as well. So a few things to admire about Stan Lee, Lenny. You know, he is a World War II veteran. When he came back from the war,
right, and it was Veterans Day coincidentally yesterday,
right? You know, and when he came back from the war, he had written some stories, you know, across various genres, I might add. He didn't only write like superhero stuff before his career catapulted with Marvel. I mean, he wrote about romance and westerns and like, you know, more Flash Gordon type stuff. But
his heart was in sci-fi.
His heart was in sci-fi. And I think that, you know, his writing career took a little bit of a dip and then he almost gave up. But what's admirable about him is that along with the support of his wife, who I think was a big, you know, cheerleader for him, he managed to get himself back up. And funny that when DC released their Justice League comic book,
that's when he got
kind of inspired him to just do his own version of a group of superheroes, Fantastic Four. And so a great inspiration, I feel, to anybody who feels like they've given up on their dreams, on what they love, because he shows us, of course, that it's never too late and you can always get back up and do what you love.
Yeah,
you know?
I mean, ultimately, I really do think that should be his legacy. I mean, yes, we can see the products, the fruits of his creations and of his his determination, but really it's more about doing what you love. And he even talked about that many times, you know, do what you love so it won't be work, and just never give up on your dreams because you never know.
He even said that that's what contributed to his long life. You know?
I mean, he was 95 years old.
Yep, that's right, 95 years old, and he said, if you do what you love and if you remain youthful, you know, you'll live a long life.
Right. So rest in peace, Stan Lee. This is a send-off that I hope a lot of people are giving you.
But his legacy will live on.
Yep.
You know, his work is still with us. His brilliance is still with us. We're still going to enjoy his work at the movie theater, you know, looking forward to the new Avengers.
Right. Stan Lee, thank you for all you've done for us. May you rest in peace, sir.
Rest in peace, Stan Lee.